Actually, I just want to pick up a question from something you said just now around, when you're engaging with the client, the first 10 minutes, they're kind of downloading, what's in their head, or the issues that are troubling them, or, meeting they've just come from, whatever it may be. And obviously, I suspect more often than not, they may be in a degree of an emotional state as they're downloading with you. So how do you deal, or indeed, not you, help others deal with their emotions when things aren't going the way you or they would like them to? What's your advice to them, or to yourself in that case, if you want to reference yourself in this?
Well, I'll start here by not pointing the finger, but I learned this many years ago from my non-exec chairman, who had done a phenomenal job of having the fastest growing accountancy practice in the UK during the 90s. But he was, I was very lucky. I met him in his 60s, and he'd already been very successful. And whenever I went to him with a problem, he'd always ask me the same question.
Yeah.
And he'd always say, so if we step forward, what would be a good outcome from this situation? And he said this to me, and in the end, I thought, well, I'm not that dumb. He keeps on asking me the same thing. I could probably ask myself. And then I came up with, and I read something once, which is an equation I use consistently with my team, with teams I work with, and also with people, which is E+R equals O. Event plus response equals outcome. Event could be an external event from, I don't know, we're having a recession, we're going into a pandemic, we haven't hit our numbers, all sorts of things. And an E is a uncontrollable and uncontrollable event, which happens to many people consistently. However, our response is ultimately, we are 100% responsible for the responses we give to any situation. So number one, I've learned, never react. Never react. If we might as well be on the plains of Africa fighting with lions if we're just going to react to things. We've got a prefrontal cortex, which allows us an executive function. So there's no need to react to any situation. But have multiple responses. So if you have multiple responses, you don't need to have 7, but having 2 or 3 responses to situations, and many of these come up, because that will directly impact the outcome. Yeah. So skillful communicators here, even when this happen, when we're usually under attack of some description or perceived attack, and we can react and just respond and go, yeah, but you said this and I said that. Whereas if we skillfully go, okay, if we enter that other person's world, if we understand what their value set is, if we understand what emotional state they're in at a particular time, we're going to respond more skillfully. And look, this happens a lot with my clients. And the ultimate for me is a night's sleep. So you can get, and again, email, somebody could be doing some, not that this happens a lot, honest, but, somebody possibly from somewhere else, the other side of the pond, has got an email and sent it to you and is going to give you both barrels. First of all, it's your choice to respond when you respond and on what terms you respond. And there's nothing like a good night's sleep. So quite often I will say to people, however you're feeling now, get it down on paper. Or, you can go all guns blazing, but please leave it in your draft. Okay? Do not send it. Have a night's sleep tomorrow, and then tomorrow revisit it. Well, I know for a fact that when sleep is the most fundamental, apart from drinking water, is the most fundamental thing apart from being to be alive, is if that response is still the same 24 hours later, okay, then send it. Usually it's not. The emotional level will always have come down. We'll have taken a wider context. We'll have asked ourselves, for what purpose? So I think that one for me is really fundamental, but it always comes back down to taking a bit of context, which is, I'll be honest now, if I ever go into conflict situation with any of my clients, which luckily happens very rarely, there's one question I've learned to ask myself is, what will be the impact on the relationship of what I'm about to do next? And then with my deepest clients, never mind, they could be having a bad day or whatever it may be, I do just say 3 words: trust the relationship. And when you do that, you lift yourself out of whatever quagmire or detail or whatever else is going here. When you can say, trust the relationship, you're in a really strong place. Of course, you have to have built the relationship first. So that's my sort of 2 pennyworth on managing emotions effectively.